Once upon a time, there was a prince. He lived with his two beautiful maidens in a beautiful castle glistening with gold and wrapped in ivory leaves. However, one day, the young prince decided he did not love his wives anymore, and so he sought after the knowledge of the wisest wizard in the land. He sought the knowledge of the meaning of love, and indeed how to achieve love within his own life. The wizard considered his request and ultimately offered him to take up a journey and find the wizard 3 emeralds for the mines deep within the Goblin Mountains. The prince refused. Driven by his selfish pride, he demanded the wizard to tell him the meaning of love at an instant, as he was the golden prince of the land, strong yet wise and therefore cunning. And so he was not one to be told no. With a stern look of anger, yet also deep in his wrinkles, confusion, the wizard banished the young prince from his tower, leaving the little lion embarrassed and made a fool. Although, perhaps the wizard can give us one little clue, and that is to find the young handmaiden who is a witch in the northmost village, and she will describe his destiny. However, just as the wizard turned his back, a fleeting lapse in the ever-wise omniscience and presence, the prince swapped the old wizard's medical pills with stones. Sharp, jagged stones, picked and cut with a perfect ruggedness, ready to slice with an imperfect precision. After a harrowing journey through the turbulent winds of Troll Land, crossing the rivers of the dead and the murky mountains, the prince arrived at the village. It was vivid and bustling with life. He meandered around like a hungry predator until he bumped into a beautiful young woman. She was known as the Enchantress, the Wiccan, the Necromancer. To others, she was simply a girl. When the prince saw her, he was transfixed, like a prisoner seeing the light for the first time in a century. He instantly expressed his newfound love for her, and in a fleeting moment of erotic madness, they found their way to a bed of acute softness and engaged in activities. Suddenly, as they neared their peak, the girl became possessed. When a hex commandeered her young body, she chanted, "Your destiny is to become the saviour of your land. Only then will you find what you're truly looking for. Love." The next morning, the girl awoke, thinking of her newfound love, the adventures they would go on, the brief moments of connection, the joy she will feel when he holds her in her arms. She turned to stare at his sleeping body, but the prince had left before the sun had risen. The prince heard news of a villain, a peasant, threatening to run down his castle, his land, his favourite home. So, the prince sped back to the castle, whipping his skinny steed again and again and again and again so he could go faster. Soon, the bleeding steed arrived at the peasant's small, disgusting home near the woods. With the force of an elephant, he kicked down the weak door as if it were a piece of grass. Inside the house, the tiny peasant stood with his small children, poking their heads behind him. He was shaking like a cold baby. The prince confronted him and said, "Halt ye, devilish villain, for I, the bravest in the land, have cometh here to help thou sadistic intent." "I'm simply trying to save our people," the peasant whispered, the tears in his eyes splattered on the floor like blood. "You have depleted our lands. We are hungry. Our people are dying. You have taken our women. You have destroyed our homes, and yet you are happy in your beautiful castle on the hill. You deserve nothing. No being should ever love you. You will be alone. Forever." The prince stood there, shaking, Slowly, he walked up to the peasant and grabbed his pale, white neck. Grasping his neck, the prince pressed his thumbs on his veins. He pushed harder and harder until his fingers entered the peasant's body. Deeper, deeper still, sticky crimson liquid seeped to the floor. He ripped his fingers from the corpse. The children were frozen, like the victims of Medusa. Then, with a sweetly murderous smile, the prince took the hands of the two children and led them to the nearest room, closing the door behind him. He left the room with only one child. Back to the wondrous castle where the prince returned from his heroic quest, thinking about the turmoil he had faced and evil villains he had conquered. He needed rest. He climbed into his royal bed with a wizard, a peasant, and a child, his three true lovers, and they all